Hi, Seto. Thank you for joining us today at the UK AI Women in AI podcast. Um, we would love for you, yeah, we would love for you to introduce yourself to all the people watching and listening.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Zara said, my name is Seto. I work in the space of AI governance and ethics. I support organizations I kind of support at two levels. So the organization level, so where they're looking to evolve their governance practices. So they may have mature security governance or privacy governance, but maybe not so much AI governance, to support them in having a look at their existing governance maturity and uplifting it to make sure it appropriately covers responsible AI as well. That could be through responsible AI strategy, development of governance frameworks, and supporting them in implementing existing governance frameworks. So, for example, the NIST AI Risk Management Framework or ISO 42001 across the organization. That's at the org level. Then at the project use case level, I work with organizations who are developing and deploying AI solutions and kind of provide that governance wrapper around that. So, working with the design team to make sure they're building in responsible AI by design through harms workshopping and impact assessments, human-centered design considerations, and then work right the way through to deployment with them. So identifying any potential risks and then putting together a mitigation strategy and plan to then mitigate those risks through development and deployment of the project.
Mm-hmm. What inspired you to start your career in this field?
Good questions are, and actually it's something that I didn't wake up and decide to do. And I wonder if many people are in this space are kind of in the same boat. I don't know if anyone consciously a few years ago, maybe now, because now it's obviously a bigger thing. But when Responsible AI first started, I don't know how many of us practitioners actually woke up one day and said, you know what, we're going to be responsible AI practitioners. So for me, I was actually a privacy professional. So I worked in privacy for a number of years. After graduating, I went straight into working into privacy within the financial services sector. And I did that for a number of years. And then one day my manager just said, AI is coming. We need to do something about it. This is now your job. That's quite literally how it happened for me. And when I first found out, I thought, I don't even know what AI is. So I need to go away. And back then, we didn't have anywhere near the amount of resource that we have today. There was no legislation. There wasn't really any guidance around responsible AI and AI governance. So it's something that I kind of just had to go away and figure out. But I think that's quite the same story for many people in this space now. So that's kind of how I fell into it. But actually, the minute I started looking at what this is and the ethics and how the life cycle of AI and how you want to govern it across the life cycle, I really started to get interested in it. So I absolutely agree, it's a passion today, but it's something that was thrown at me rather than a conscious decision to kind of go into it. So around about that time was when the IAPP first started talking about their AI governance professional certification. I think they hadn't yet released, I think it was still in draft, and I thought this is a really good opportunity for me to get formal certification and actually formal learning rather than kind of just winging it every single day, which I was at that point. So I did the initial course and then I then booked the first exam. So I got to sit the first IAPP AIGP exam, which was in Washington, D.C. a few years ago now. And that's kind of what really started my career. Once I had a bit more formal training in this space, it then became a lot easier for me to communicate governance, risk, and controls essentially when it comes to AI solutions. And also, at that time, I was being told I needed to do an exam and I could choose between security and AI. And I had tried that security exam before and I failed. I am not a security professional. So I'm glad that this kind of came at a good time for me in terms of determining the trajectory of the rest of my, career in life. And that's kind of how I got into it. But yeah, I absolutely have developed a passion since then. And for me, being a woman and being a woman of color, I think it's so important that we are considering bias and discrimination in everything that we do. And whilst that's not the only thing that you want to think about when it comes to responsible AI, that's kind of what drives my passion. Fairness for all and for everyone and for the benefit of society.
What are some of the key challenges that you faced and how did you overcome? Because this might help other people learn from your experience.
Yeah, I think that this is a very technical space, of course, because you are working with technical teams who are incredibly talented and knowledgeable who are building these solutions. I don't come from a technical background myself, so I don't come from data science or engineering or any of those sorts of background. I studied law and then I went into privacy. So my background is quite, the angle I come at this initially at is the legal side of things. But I think if you want to be somebody who works in responsible AI, it's really important that you develop some technical knowledge and learn how to speak the language of these development teams, because it's actually very difficult to govern something that you don't truly understand. So just focusing on, it's really important. Of course, you want to understand how to govern the solutions and what governance controls to put into place, but actually understanding the fundamental technology behind it is just as important, so that you can go into the rooms with these technical people in confidence, speak their language, and therefore they'll be more receptive to hear what you're saying, because they understand where you're coming from, and then you also understand the technology as well. So I think that was the biggest challenge for me, because like I said, I'm not a technical person, don't have a technical background, but you kind of have to develop some of that to operate in this space.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the current and future projects that you're involved in, if you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been, for the last, I think it's been under a year now, maybe about 9 months, I've been doing, I've been involved in some consulting opportunities with the Council of Europe on their Hudaria platform, which is a platform essentially designed to support organizations to assess the human rights impacts when it comes to AI solutions. I think naturally as governance professionals, we somewhat do to a degree. So when you think about fundamental rights, of course, you have to kind of look at in accordance with the legislation, but also privacy is the human rights as well. But we don't kind of look at the broader human rights overall. And there are quite a few, and I don't think people know about many of them. So kind of working with them to give them some insight and feedback on how that product can be used within organizations to effectively manage human rights based risks as well. So that's something I'm really looking forward to, and just generally looking forward to doing some more work with the Council of Europe as well. And then in terms of other work that I have going on right now, plus in the future as well, I'm looking to do a lot more in terms of public sector based work and supporting the government, and the different government sectors in their responsible deployment of AI. As we all know, the government is, they heavily procure so much of what they do, or they bring in third parties for internal development, which means it becomes more difficult for them to provide the right level of oversight across all of these different solutions and these third parties. So just really supporting them and uplifting their maturity when it comes to AI governance and responsible AI, something that I really love to do and looking forward to doing some more work on in the future. And then finally, just getting more involved with product-based organizations who are developing these AI solutions. And I tend to find that, I do some work with startups as well. And the thing about startups is they're not exempt from the regulations and the industry best practice standards, but they tend to be, I don't want to say less interested necessarily, but they're more innovation heavy and focused on really getting their product out there and developing at light speed and not wanting governance to hold them back. And I think that governance is often seen as a blocker, and that really shouldn't be the case. If you do it properly and you do it at the right stages, actually it can be a fantastic gate to support innovation and innovation responsibly. So just doing more work with product-based organizations to make sure they're embedded responsible AI practices from the beginning, from the development of the organization, so that in every product they then develop going forward, they're doing it responsibly in a defensible way, and they're providing their customers with a level of comfortability on the products that they're designing.
Mm-hmm. Where do you see yourself in the future?
Good question. And it's something I'm still trying to figure out. I think there's so much work to do in this space. And I think that responsible AI, AI governance, AI ethics, all of those different things and all those names we call it, is going to evolve heavily with the industry as expected. But the industry itself is evolving so quickly. We're seeing regulatory frameworks and standards popping up everywhere around the world globally, and having to keep on top of those things is quite difficult. But with that, I think we're also going to see the technology itself accelerate really quickly. Because ever since, I know that AI obviously wasn't created in the last 4 years, but in the last 4 years, we've seen rapid expansion, plus the talk of agentics, which wasn't even something we were talking about maybe two or so years ago. So it's going so quickly. So in terms of where I see myself in that space, I think I kind of want to transition from just talking about responsible AI and working with responsible AI and kind of taking the angle to be responsible innovation. Because I think a lot of the principles that apply to responsible AI can apply to so many different types of technologies, yet we only seem to think about it when it comes to AI. There are risks to society and risks to individual groups in all different types of technology. So for me, I just really want to kind of grow what I've developed for myself within the AI space across innovation in general. And that's kind of where I see my path taking me.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you offer to people, particularly women who want to sort of pursue a similar career path?
Yeah. So for women that want to pursue a similar career path, I think that it's not linear. I think a lot of the time people think, particularly when you're talking about, AI, this buzzword, that it comes from a technical background. And as I mentioned, that's not my background. You don't have to be somebody who is, studied some sort of technical based degree, computer science or data science or any of those things in order to get into this space. I think that a lot of the people who work in this space is actually driven by passion. So it doesn't matter, oh, I didn't study law, or I didn't study data science, I didn't study IT, whatever. It's going to be really difficult to get into. Obviously, it helps, it's stepping stone, but fundamentally, it's your passion. So I think that you do need to be somewhat passionate to work within responsible AI, and your interests are for the benefit of society more widely, whatever that society may look like to you. Everybody in society needs a representative. So that's one of the things I would say is definitely go into this with because you're passionate about it. And then the second thing I would say is I think that you really have a look at what, I mean, it's difficult, particularly when it comes to certification around AI governance. There are not that many at the moment. But the quickest way that for me to helped me get into this space was actually going off and doing a course and certifying in that space. You learn so much through on-job training, of course, as well, which is just as important. But the foundations, I think it's really important to go off and really learn the foundations of AI governance as well. If you're somebody who comes from any sort of governance and risk background, that's also super helpful in this space too, because a lot of those things are transferable skills. So whether it's security, as I said before, or data governance, or whatever it is, even business continuity, whatever sort of risk area that you're working in, there's a clear path in there too. But I think the number one thing, as I said, is passion, and just finding, something within this space that you're really passionate about protecting, and then how AI can be used to protect. And people always talk about AI risk, absolutely, but AI is also in many cases how you can solve some of these existing risks. So taking bias and discrimination as an example, people always talk about how AI can be biased, and of course it can be, but we as people are also biased. So why don't we find a way to use AI to help that or correct that? And rather than thinking about how it can perpetuate it, how can we use it to fix some of these things as well? So kind of looking at it a bit more positively.
Mm-hmm. How can people get in touch with you?
Yes, so I would say the easiest way to reach me is via LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn profile is pretty much just my name, Seto Adenuga. And yeah, you should be able to find me there.
And is there anything else you'd like to share with people?
I think that we all have responsibility in society to help each other. And whatever that looks like to you, as I said, there are pockets of society that you belong in that AI could really benefit, but it could also carry risk as well for. So just making sure, even if you're not somebody who works in responsible AI, if you're somebody who uses AI at work or you use it in your personal life, just thinking about those things and how your use could benefit society. I think that's the main thing.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to speak to you.
Likewise, thank you for having me.